Cannibal facts that'll eat at you for days. Part 2. 71-year-old Tamara Samsonova murdered and ate at least 11 people and kept a diary detailing her crimes. She's been dubbed the Granny Ripper, and this CCTV footage shows her carrying the head of one of her victims in a saucepan. In 2008, a man on a packed Greyhound bus named Vince Lee killed and beheaded another 22-year-old passenger. He proceeded to dismember and eat his body in front of the other people on the bus. In 2008, Joe Matheny was sentenced to death after murdering 8 people, turning their meat into hamburgers, and selling them to unsuspecting customers. This photo shows the survivors of the 1972 Andes plane crash. The passengers resorted to cannibalism to survive 72 days in the snow. If you look closely at the ground, you'll see a human spine picked clean next to the guy on the right. In 1928, Albert Fish met up with his friend with the intention of killing and eating him. However, when he was introduced to the guy's 10-year-old sister Grace, he decided to eat her instead. After, he sent a letter to their parents saying that she tasted sweet and tender.
Police have released the mugshot of 18-year-old Juan Carlos Garcia Rodriguez, who has been charged with the murder of Maria Gonzalez, the 11-year-old girl found strangled and stuffed under her father's bed. The Pasadena Police Department launched an investigation, and it was revealed that Maria had sent a text to her father about someone knocking on their door shortly before her death. The police believed that the person was Garcia Rodriguez, their neighbor. After a week-long search, Garcia Rodriguez was apprehended in Louisiana by the Shreveport police. Sources say he made a full confession to the crime. He is currently awaiting extradition back to Texas to face charges. Garcia Rodriguez had only been living with his roommate for less than a month when the incident occurred. According to the roommate, Garcia Rodriguez seemed normal on the morning of Maria's death. It wasn't until Maria's uncle came searching for her that they realized something was wrong. Garcia Rodriguez informed his roommate that he was leaving town for a job and refused to hand over his key when asked. The Pasadena police later discovered that the key Garcia Rodriguez left behind at the crime scene opened the door to his apartment. Pasadena Police Chief Jeff Brugger revealed that Garcia Rodriguez had previously self-surrendered to U.S. Customs and Border Protection in El Paso in January. As a Guatemalan national, he was released to his immigration sponsors in Louisiana. A public viewing was held at Mundo Pentecostal Church to allow loved ones to say their final goodbyes. Maria's body will be sent to Guatemala, where she has family.
This is where the evil baby killer Lucy Leppy will stay for the rest of her life. So it is most likely that she'll be held in segregation first to stop her from being attacked from fellow inmates. Her routine will most likely be an hour a day for open air and then only half an hour for daily tasks like showering. If and when she is allowed out of segregation and into the main prison halls, then she will have access to things like the library and also clothes shops where she can buy branded clothes. Now the question is, for a woman that murdered 7 babies and attempted to kill another 6, is this enough punishment?
The Mexican cartel chainsaw murders video depicts the execution of 2 men, identified as Felix Games Garcia and Barnabas Games Castro, also known as Paulino Gomez Garcia, both alleged members of the Mexican Sinaloa drug cartel. The video, which has circulated for years on the internet, is a horrifying scene of the men seated before a wall with their hands tied behind their backs. They admit to working for El Chapo Guzman, the leader of the Sinaloa cartel, as drug couriers and lookouts. Barnabas Gomez Castro is the uncle of Felix Games Garcia. They reveal that their roles included being halcones, spotters, and occasionally riding in convoys for the cartel. Despite their compliance and responses during questioning by their captors, it's evident that they know they will not survive the ordeal. The chilling video shows both men facing their fate with a sense of resignation, worn down and defeated. The video captures their execution in a gruesome manner. Barnabas Games Castro is beheaded using a chainsaw, while Felix Game Garcia, the nephew, is decapitated with a knife. Their deaths are captured in explicit detail, and the brutality of the act is horrifying. The video is a tragic representation of the violent and deadly world of Mexican drug cartels, where individuals are forced into such roles due to various circumstances, including financial desperation. Throughout the video, Barnabas Games Castro offers a message to those contemplating entering the drug cartel world, urging them to think twice about their decisions, emphasizing the grim reality they face and the irreversible consequences. The video serves as a stark reminder of the chilling violence and brutality perpetuated by these criminal organizations.
This baby fell 11 floors from her grandfather's arms. On July 2019, 18-month-old Chloe and her family were vacationing at the Royal Caribbean Cruises in Puerto Rico when her grandfather sat her at the window ledge and she fell 11 floors to the ground. Chloe's grandfather, Salvatore Anello, says that it was all an accident and he thought the window was closed. He said he leaned Chloe against the window because that's what she likes to do. Chloe's mother, Kim, was devastated, but she does stand by her father and says that the cruise was negligent and should have never had an open window by a kid's play area.
Chloe's family says she fell through that open window, set to slide open to provide ventilation in what's known as the H2O zone aboard the cruise ship. A family attorney says the toddler's grandfather, Sam, placed her on a railing to look outside, believing he was lifting the toddler behind a wall of glass.
After the cruise ship reviewed their surveillance footage, there seems to be more to the story.
But ship video, first shown on TV in Puerto Rico last month, shows Anello leaning out the window for about 8 seconds while Chloe is still on the ground. Then he lifts the girl up and over a wooden rail. He held her for about 34 seconds before she slipped from his arms. Royal Caribbean says the video proves Anello had to know the window was open and recklessly lifted Chloe over the window.
Salvatore pleaded guilty to negligent homicide and was sentenced to 3 years probation.
Do you know the greatest serial killer in all of history? The one who allegedly had the most victims? Unlike Jack the Ripper, he's not very well known. His name is Chrisman Genipatenga. Between 1568 and 1581 in the Holy Roman Empire, he supposedly murdered 964 people. Initially, his motivation was to rob his victims, but quickly, he set the goal of reaching 1,000 murders. He also held a woman captive for 7 years, getting her pregnant 6 times. But each time she gave birth, he killed the babies by crushing their necks. This woman would ultimately lead to Chrisman's downfall. One day, she begs him to take her with him and promises not to betray him. But once in public, she bursts into tears and draws the attention of passers-by. 30 armed men are sent to Chrisman's hideout to arrest him. These men find his diary, detailing the murders of his 964 victims. Chrisman was sentenced to the wheel, a gruesome medieval torture device, his torment lasting for 9 days as they kept him alive to make him suffer as much as possible. Want more videos? Then subscribe.
Blood-curdling facts that you wish you never knew. When a person is electrocuted via electric chair, they feel absolutely everything. They're completely aware of their body being deep-fried in real time. And one person who survived the first round of electrocution said it tasted like cold peanut butter. As you're watching this video, your internal organs are constantly moving around inside you. Your armpit is where most of your important nerves in your arms are, so if you stab it, it will leave your arm completely useless. Ted Bundy, the serial killer, used to work at a suicide hotline. Scaphism was a form of ancient torture where someone's body was tied between 2 boats and they were covered in milk and honey, and bugs and other animals would feast on their body for days. Cotard's delusion is a rare condition where people literally think they're dead, and many of them ask to be taken to a cemetery to be with other dead people. There are over 200 dead bodies on Mount Everest, and they're used as checkpoints by climbers. If you die inside of your house, it's very common that your pet is going to want to eat you. You wouldn't do that, would you? Neil Armstrong's footprints on the moon don't match up with the ones on his astronaut suit.
A harrowing story of a Chinese live streamer named Little Kitty's death has gone viral. TikTok users are attempting to find the truth after the influencer took her own life in front of thousands of viewers in 2021. Little Kitty was a TikTok influencer in China who created online videos around makeup and fashion for her loving fans. But in what would be the influencer's final stream, Kitty revealed she had been struggling with depression for quite some time and that she had faked being happy for her fans.
知道原因的话，那 这来小号看我直播吧，放心，这一条直播。
Fans allegedly told Little Kitty during the stream to take a break for the sake of her mental health, but their words of encouragement turned to pleas when they noticed Kitty was drinking a brown liquid throughout the stream. While she told fans it was Coca-Cola, police later confirmed it was a toxic liquid.
Some people were encouraging her, egging her, saying, "Drink, drink, drink, drink." She finished drinking the liquid, and soon news started circulating that Little Kitty had died.
Devastated fans began theorizing why she may have taken her own life, pointing to trolls turning on her after her ex-boyfriend accused her of emotional manipulation. The influencer, named Z, alleged that Kitty threatened to harm herself during arguments. Meanwhile, Kitty accused him of cheating on her. What happened after her death was even more upsetting. 1 month after the shocking live stream, Kitty's ashes were stolen by a stalker who claimed they had wanted to marry her. Eventually, 3 people were found to be involved in the swapping of her ashes, and they admitted to trying to sell her ashes for $10,000 all these years later, and the story continues to shake the
Caution for the photo that you are about to see. This was captured on the Ring doorbell of Jessica Gerald on a 2014 morning around 3 a.m. It is the only shot that we have of the man who broke into her home. For context, this is a small town right outside of Omaha, Nebraska. Like, bad things don't happen here, or so everyone thought. Unprovoked and completely without motive, the man was seen on camera around 3, and then he uses a glass scoring tool where he very quietly makes a hole in the window and then enters through the living room. So the following morning, Jessica Gerald, she doesn't go into work, so her family is contacted and they go to her home, where she is found without her head or her tongue. Media investigation was launched where the footage was eventually recovered. The man seen here had also posed her body without the head sitting up at her kitchen table.
I was the most famous WWE star, but I committed a horrific act that would change my life forever. My name is Tamara Lynn Sitch, better known under my wrestling name, Sunny. I quickly rose to fame in the WWE for not only my looks, but my great combat skills. After a lengthy career, I was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame and life was going great. In 2022, I turned age 50, and one night, while I was celebrating with some drinks, I decided to drive home, even though I wasn't sober. I ended up crashing into the back of an old man's car at a stoplight while I was going a high speed. He died on impact, and 4 others received minor injuries. But my story gets even worse. You see, I had been arrested for driving under the influence 6 times before this incident happened. I didn't learn from my crimes, and it costed the life of a poor old man. Many people question why I wasn't put in prison after so many instances, or why I still had my driver's license. I went to court and was found guilty, and was sentenced to 25 years in prison. If only I had been stopped during my previous instances, then this would have never happened, and a man would still have his life. Follow for more stories. For more.
Rachel Del Tondo's former student has been named the prime suspect in her case. If you don't know, in 2018, Rachel was a suspended teacher in Aliquippa, Pennsylvania. On May 13th, she went out for ice cream with a friend, not knowing someone was following her. When Rachel was dropped off at her parents around 10:45, she was shot 10 times right there in the driveway. But to understand what happened there that night, we have to go back to an incident 2 years before. The reason her millionaire fiancé broke off their engagement and she was suspended from teaching. That winter, in February of 2016, police found Rachel and a 17-year-old student here in a, quote, steamed up parked car just before 2 a.m. Rachel told the responding officer that the high school football star Sheldon Jeter had just needed to talk. She said her fiancé would be angry if he found out, so the officer agreed not to file a report or press any charges. About a year later, in May of 2017, the police chief decided to, quote, file that report in case someone got wind of it. And then suddenly in October, it was leaked to Rachel's boss and the media, all sent in an anonymous email conveniently just days after her fiancé went to the station looking for more information. With that, Rachel was placed on paid suspension pending an investigation by the Department of Education. And within 2 months of said suspension, she got into a serious relationship with Sheldon's older brother, Bolton, the brother of the student she was seen with in that car. So, on the night Rachel was killed, we now know she actually got ice cream with Sheldon and Bolton's third brother. This seemingly did not go over well with Sheldon. You can see he texted his brother just 30 minutes before the murder, insinuating he was mad he wasn't invited. So, for the past 5 years, police have reportedly been building circumstantial evidence against Sheldon. They have GPS data, surveillance footage, and his history of stalking, but they cannot place her on Rachel's driveway that night. As of today, Sheldon is the only suspect in Rachel's case, and he's actually already serving life for the murder of his roommate in 2020. He shot Tyreek 7 times, again after going out for ice cream.
He was the best guy around.
What about the people he murdered?
What murder?
Hey y'all, let's talk about the dead woman who solved her own murder. This right here is Teresita Basa. She came to America from the Philippines in the 1960s. She wanted a better life for herself in America. She moved to Chicago. She began studying music at first, and then she eventually became a respiratory therapist. Although things were going good for Teresita, her life was cut short by a killer. On February 21st, 1977, the fire department was called to Teresita's apartment because of the smell of smoke. That's when they made the awful discovery. Teresita was found deceased and nude and found under her mattress with a knife in her chest. For months, the police were looking for Teresita's killer. 6 months after her murder, an unlikely witness came forward. Dr. Chua, who worked with Teresita, came forward to the police and said that his wife was having visions of Teresita. One day when his wife was in a trance, she told him that she was Teresita Basa and that she knew who murdered her. So when he asked her who murdered you, she said Alan Showery. Alan Showery also worked with Teresita. When the police gathered all this information, they confronted Alan with this. At first, Alan denied any involvement in Teresita's murder, but later he confessed. Now this is the thing, Alan was served 14 years in prison, but he was let out on parole in 1983. Yes, I must admit, it is scary that her ghost revealed who her killer was, but at the same time, it's sad that she didn't get the justice that she deserved. Alright y'all, I'll be back to do more true crime videos for you guys.
Trust me, I love the Uma Compton memes as much as the next person does, but do you know the actual backstory behind this famous internet meme? So she's doing the rounds again, all of the memes. I'll show you a few that are appropriate and not horrifically offensive. I'm sure you've seen them floating around of this girl who is supposedly called Uma Compton. She has a Twitter as well as a Facebook page, and she's just hilarious. Here's another one, and another one, which icon. However, she's not real. I didn't actually know this, but Uma Compton is not a real person. The person in the pictures is not called Uma, she's called Natalia, and she did not marry her cousin. She is just some poor woman off the internet who had all of her photos stolen and made into memes, which is, when you think about it, that's actually really sad. But this was like a huge deal back in, I think, 2015, 2016, and she's like no longer on the internet. Natalia actually deleted all of her social medias. I tried to find them, but I couldn't, so I'm guessing she just got sick of the trolling and decided to get off the internet, which is fair enough. But next time you see these memes, think twice, because this is just some poor girl that had all of her photos taken and made into these memes, which are iconic, I will say, but I still feel kind of bad for her.
In July 2022, a fatal car crash claimed the lives of 20-year-old Dominique Rousseau and his friend 19-year-old Davion Flanagan. Behind the wheel was Dominique's 19-year-old girlfriend, Mackenzie Sharilla. Mackenzie was driving 100 miles per hour and rammed her car into a wall. She was discovered unconscious, her fuzzy Prada slippers still pressed against the accelerator, while Dominique and Davion both died at the scene. Ultimately, it was discovered that Mackenzie purposely caused the crash. She was recently found guilty of 4 counts of murder. It has been discovered that she appeared to have posted a perplexing message under her name on Dominique's obituary. In a post dated August 24, 2022, she wrote, "I miss you, Nug. It still feels like you're about to walk through the door any second. I long for your laughter and that perfect smile. I sense your presence around me every day, but I yearn for a tangible connection." The post continued, "God, you were the least deserving of this tragedy. Your future was so full of promise. I wish I had conveyed this to you more often. Please wait for me," indicating a deep emotional conflict. On August 8, 2022, the day of Dominique's burial, she expressed, "I love you, my Nug. My thoughts of you will never fade." Now, addressing the tearful teen in court, Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court Judge Nancy Margaret Russo made it clear. This was not a case of reckless driving. This was an act of murder. She had a goal, and she carried it out with precision. The verdict was death. The judge, unrelated to Dominique, highlighted that Mackenzie's motive for this tragic act was a deterioration of their several-month-long relationship. Security footage provided evidence of her deliberate actions as she accelerated her Toyota Camry to 100 miles per hour, leaped over a curb, and collided with a brick wall. The judge also stated, and I quote, "She transformed from a responsible driver into a manifestation of destruction as she navigated the street. Mackenzie alone made the decision to drive the car, following an unfamiliar route she had scouted a few days earlier, a route she didn't usually take." Mackenzie was also convicted of 4 counts of felonious assault and 2 counts of aggravated vehicular homicide. Now, she is scheduled to be sentenced tomorrow, August 21st, but according to news outlets, the conviction results in an automatic life sentence behind bars without the possibility of parole for 15 years. While THC was found in her system above the state's legal limit, charges of driving under the influence were not pursued by prosecutors. May Dominique and Davion rest in peace.
So this murdered Texas couple's missing baby has finally been found after 42 years. And the story is crazy. Let's take a look. So in 1981, Dean Klaus, his wife Tina Lynn, and their baby Holly disappeared without a trace in East Texas. The only clue was from an anonymous caller who said that he had found Dean's car in California. And he claimed that 3 women in white robes drove it from Texas to California. Police were actually able to track down one of the women who called herself Sister Susan, and she claimed that Dean had joined a cult and renounced all earthly possessions. And she wouldn't tell them anything else. It actually wasn't until late last year that human remains found around the same time were confirmed to be Dean and Tina's. Dean had been beaten to death and Tina had been strangled. But that didn't answer what happened to Holly. This year, investigators were searching for human remains around where Dean and Tina were found. And that's when they got a genetics hit that Holly was alive and in Oklahoma. But get this, when they were talking to Holly, they found out that she had been left on the steps of a church in Arizona by none other than 3 women in white robes. Investigation is still pending, and they are really trying to figure out who these white-robed women are. But for now, at least we know that Holly is alive and well.
Breaking news, a Netflix software engineer has mysteriously vanished. They said 22-year-old Udonis was captured on security camera leaving his apartment building in downtown San Jose around 7:15 p.m. on Monday. His family stated he was seen getting into an Uber. 2 of his colleagues say they were able to speak with him prior to him getting into the car. The colleagues stated that he told them he was going to San Francisco to maybe meet a friend. They said the vehicle description was that of a black Toyota Camry with an Uber sticker. His cell phone, wallet, and backpack were found near the Golden Gate Bridge Welcome Center in San Francisco. However, the items were found in different locations. They said someone who was on commute saw a phone and wallet sitting on a small grassy hill right between the Welcome Center and a coffee shop. There was also $30 cash in his wallet. His IDs and phone were untouched. However, the backpack was found the next day closer to the bridge, and it contained 2 of his laptops and personal documents. Additionally, they said that his phone showed his location at the Golden Gate Bridge the majority of Monday night. He was last seen wearing gray sweatpants along with a black hoodie and black shoes. If anyone has any information, please contact authorities immediately. I'll keep you guys updated. What do you think? Drop in the comments.
It's been 13 years since Brittany Drexel disappeared from Myrtle Beach, and as of this week, we finally know who's responsible. In April of 2009, Brittany had plans to travel from New York to South Carolina for a spring break trip with friends. From the beginning, her mom was dead set against her going and told her daughter that she knew something bad was going to happen. It was April 24th when Brittany told her mom she was going to stay with a friend for the weekend. What her mom didn't know is that she was lying. In reality, Brittany was already headed to Myrtle Beach for spring break. That weekend, the girls stayed at the Bar Harbor Hotel. On their first night there, around 8 p.m., Brittany alone set off on a 2-mile walk to go meet a different group of friends at a nearby resort. It's been confirmed that she made it there and exited the building around 9:15 p.m. Around the same time, Brittany stopped responding to text messages from her boyfriend back home. He became so concerned that he threatened to tell her mom where she was, and this is actually how it became known that Brittany was missing. Despite years of extensive search efforts, Brittany was never seen again. While there have been conspiracies about her friends and other young people in the area that she was with that night, it was just this past week that we finally learned what really happened. We don't know much, but 77-year-old Raymond Moody has just been charged with Brittany's kidnapping, sexual assault, and murder. He reportedly served 21 years in prison for the sexual assault of 7 minors in California, and he was stopped by police for a traffic violation near Myrtle Beach just 1 day after the disappearance. It's been said that he strangled Brittany and then buried her the following day, and he's since led investigators to her remains.